Welcome to Missouri Law Matters, a podcast all about your Missouri courts. My name is Matt Hamner, and I'm a judge on the Missouri Court of Appeals in the Southern District in Springfield, Missouri. As you all know, and having been with me now through several episodes of the podcast, I am a judge on the Missouri Court of Appeals. I am in the Southern District down in Springfield. But there are actually three different districts of our Court of Appeals. One based in Springfield, the Southern District, one based in Kansas City, the Western District, and one based in St. Louis, which is our Eastern District Court of Appeals. Today, I have the Chief Judge of the Eastern District Court of Appeals, Judge Torbitzky, joining me today to talk about his path to the law, his career as a judge, and also to tell us all about the 150th anniversary of the Eastern District, which is coming up very quickly. Judge Torbitzky, thank you very much for being here today. Welcome to the pod.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate being on.
I know how busy you are, particularly with your new duties as Chief Judge and with everything that you all have going on with the 150th anniversary coming up. So I'm very grateful that you were able to take the time to talk to us and our listeners today. One of the first things I always usually ask folks when they're talking to me on the pod is kind of tell the folks a little bit about what it is that you do and how you handle business on a day-to-day basis.
So as you mentioned, I'm a judge here on the Missouri Court of Appeals Eastern District. We serve a little bit different role than trial judges, which is probably the judges most people think of when they think about judges. A big part of our job, as I see it, is to ensure that the trial judges are doing their job. When things come up to us, it's a review of kind of the legal aspects of the trial. And so I like to think of it as ensuring that people get a fair trial. And that's really what we want to do, is making sure that the law is followed in our circuit courts is a big part of our day-to-day job.
Excellent. And that's exactly how I would explain it if somebody asked me the same thing. We're a review. We don't retry cases. We don't call witnesses and have all that stuff again. But what we do is review all the work that was done at the trial court level and just make sure that it was fair.
And when people come to visit our courthouse, I point out, if they're on a tour or something, I'll try to point out, look around this courtroom. Is there anything missing that you might expect to see in a courtroom? And of course, I'm pointing at there's no jury box here. There's no witness stand here. So these things that you see on TV that you're used to is not what we do in our universe. We deal almost purely with the law. We're not retrying facts. That's what juries are for. That's what judges are for at the trial court level in the right circumstances. But it's entirely about making sure that the law is followed.
Excellent. And you currently have, I believe, 14 judges on your court. Is that right?
That is right.
Excellent. And you are currently the Chief Judge of the Eastern District. Tell me a little bit about that and explain to the folks who may be listening, what is that designation of Chief Judge mean and how does that alter your day-to-day activities and what duties do you have?
Yeah, so it adds to the administrative duties of the court. There's got to be somebody that answers a lot of day-to-day questions on your general procedures, deals with problems as they arise, and those types of duties fall on the chief judge. You have somebody that kind of runs point, and then you consult with the other judges here. There are 14 judges, but we act as one court. And so my goal in dealing with those types of issues is always to make sure that we have buy-in from all 14 of our judges on. The other big difference, the big additional responsibility is I serve as the chair of the 22nd and 21st Judicial Circuit Commissions, which play an important role in helping to select judges on those trial courts.
And that is as appointments come up on those courts and there need to be selections that get made, do you participate on the committee that makes those determinations as to which candidates to send to the governor, correct?
We actually have one in the city right now, an associate circuit vacancy. So when that happens, we open up a vacancy, we get applications that come in. We have a commission. It's 5 people. We have 2 lawyers that are chosen by the members of the bar. And then we have 2 non-lawyers who are appointed by the governor. They all serve on rolling terms. I serve as the chair of that committee, and we take in the applications. We look through qualifications. We try to find 3 people that we think are going to be the most suited for that judicial role. And it's a really great system because it helps us pick judges on what their merit is, their actual qualifications. And then we nominate 3 of the people who have applied to the governor, and the governor gets to select one of those 3.
It's a very important function, and I appreciate all the efforts that you make with respect to making sure that we have good candidates for judges in the St. Louis area. One of the things that we always talk with our guests about is their path to the law. So tell our listeners a little bit about what got you interested in the law in the first place and how you kind of came to be a lawyer and then ultimately a judge.
I guess my pathway to the law was a little circuitous. Some people, you're in elementary school and you're like, I want to be a lawyer. I had gotten an English degree in college and thought I might be a English professor, and got out into the real world and served as a barista for a couple of years looking for a job, and decided that the law would be a way to help do the things that I was interested in doing, and would be a way to kind of utilize the things that I'm good at. I was a good writer. I like to read a lot. I wanted to be in a position where I could help people and do meaningful work. And the law was on the short list of things I was interested in. I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I don't think I knew a lawyer until I actually got into law school. So I didn't have any sounding boards that way. But it just was a path that found me, and it's worked out really well.
It's interesting that you say that. We talk to a lot of judges on this podcast and a lot of lawyers. Some people come from families of lawyers where mom and dad were both lawyers, or grandpa was a lawyer, or whatever. And then we have a lot of people whose families had absolutely no connection to the law. My family was that way. There were no lawyers in my family. And it's amazing to me how the practice of law and the profession of law can just find you, whether you've had exposure to it or not, or whether or not it's something that you had ever thought about. Particular types of people like you who are studious and like to write and like to read and like to be challenged, they just tend to get drawn to the profession. And that's really fascinating to me, how people always end up doing what we do.
Yeah, it's a really good way to deal with interesting issues on a regular basis. And maybe it's cliche, but people say, I got into law to help people. And ultimately, that is what this profession is all about, is helping people resolve disputes, especially if you're on the litigation end of things. You have people that are at a bad point in their life and they come to lawyers because they're seeking somebody to help them sort that out. And it is a role in which you can serve people and help people out and really make a difference if you work hard and do it right.
Absolutely. So you graduate from law school, and then at that point you go into private practice. You spend some time in private practice. How long is it that you are a private attorney before you become a judge?
So immediately out of law school, I did a judicial clerkship. And I did that for 2 years. That's a wonderful experience for law students to come out of school. That's where you work for a judge for a year or so, and you get to learn from the judge and get some legal experience or get some experience in issues that you might not be familiar with. And so I did that and worked for Zell Fisher, who's on the Supreme Court now, was then. And he is a wonderful guy. I learned a ton from him, and it really helps prepare you for the next step. So then I went into private practice, and I was in private practice for about 7 or 8 years, I think, before I got the appointment.
And what was it to get your position? As you've discussed, it's much like the trial judges you discussed. You had to apply for that position, and you went through a commission and were ultimately appointed. What was it that made you want to apply to be an appellate judge and to leave private practice?
I knew that I wanted to be an appellate judge during my clerkship. When you get that experience behind the scenes and you see how things are done, I just knew that it was something that fit my skill set really well. The writing and the figuring things out is a big part of what we do. And that kind of initial formative experience is what got me to really be interested in applying. The timing on it is just like so many things. You have people that are willing to step up and support you, and they start telling you that, hey, I think you should do this, even when you're like, no, I don't think I should. I've only been practicing for 9 years or whatever it was in total at the time. You're like, I don't think the time's right, and people telling you, the timing's never really right, so you might as well throw in. And so that was my experience with it, was that I had gotten to a point where I felt comfortable as a lawyer. I knew what I was doing. I knew my way around the courtroom. I knew how to be prepared for court, which is, I think, half the battle. And then everything else was just a natural fit.
That's excellent. We share a lot of similarities with respect to that, as I too also had a clerkship, and it was during that time at the clerkship at the Supreme Court that really got my interest in ultimately someday becoming an appellate judge. We share that in common. And I love to hear you say about the timing and to talk about that timing, because I talk to a lot of young lawyers and even lawyers who've been practicing a long time who tell me, I thought about being a judge someday, but the timing was just never right. And my response to them is always the same. The timing will never be right. The issue is, if you truly do ever have a desire to become a judge or a commissioner or to fill one of these roles, serving our judicial system and helping the public in that way, the opportunities are few and far between. And when those opportunities come along, you have to be willing to just run and jump and grab them with both hands, because they don't come along very often. I'm always encouraging folks that if they have any inkling in the back of their mind that they want to pursue this type of job or do the things that we do, don't be afraid of it. It's never going to feel like the right time, but there never will be a right time. And if it's something you really want, you just got to jump in with both feet and go after it.
One thing that I've been told about navigating the Missouri court plan process is, as somebody who's interested at becoming a judge, is that really the whole thing's kind of like catching lightning in a bottle. It takes a lot of hard work, and obviously you got to prove to people that you're capable. That's really the number one qualification. And then the rest of it is just timing with who else is applying, those sorts of things. It's really a system that I think is a good system. People should always be willing to throw in. And if you feel like you're too young, my thing was always, it's just something that you have to explain. Like, why you're 30 years old, why do you think you should be a judge? What have you done that gets you there? It's something that you need to try to explain why it's not important, or why, yeah, maybe I don't fit the mold of who on a normal basis, but this is why I think that I'm just as qualified as anybody else to do the job.
And the awesome thing about being a judge and the experience I've had and getting to know the hundreds of judges that we have in the state of Missouri, there is no cookie cutter judge. They are all so different and come from such different backgrounds and have such different personalities that truly, that if you have a desire and a passion to do this type of a job, we'll find space for you. Your personality, your likes, your dislikes, your passions, they will fit somewhere within the judiciary. Again, I'm very appreciative of you speaking so highly of it. And certainly we encourage anybody who's listening to this who maybe has a desire to be a judge someday to jump in with both feet and go after it.
I think a good mentor, find a mentor, that'll help you out a lot. But it's a great system.
Now, as an appellate judge, we talked a little bit about what you do, but for the folks that may not know, tell them a little bit about the types of cases that you deal with at the Court of Appeals.
Our jurisdiction is very wide. Everybody's got a right to an appeal on every case for the most part, once you've had a trial. And so we'll deal with family law, criminal law, probate law, domestic disputes, business law. There's a small list of things that the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction on. Everything else comes to us.
When you came on the bench, what was the biggest difference between working as a judge and working as a private practice attorney? What was the biggest adjustment you had to make?
It was very quiet here. When you're in a private practice role, your phone's always ringing, you're always running around a different courtroom or those sorts of things. And here, there are certain days, if I'm just reading or doing research or writing, which is a lot of what we do here, I could come in, say hi to my assistant, sit at my desk all day, and then leave and not talk to another person. There was a big adjustment going from that you're constantly being interrupted and called to something that's just, I think people might have forgotten I'm here.
And it's because these cases that we deal with, I think we dive into them so deeply and we get wrapped up in all the details and all the minutiae and all the various things. I think it's easy for us to sometimes get pulled into that world and forget to make a lap around the building and see if there's actually other humans here.
Yeah, no, you just kind of squirreled away. Some people say it's lonely. It can be a lonely job because there's a big part of it is reading cases, reading briefing, writing opinions, and that is stuff that it's just a quiet job, which I'm okay with, by the way. I'm not complaining. I love that my phone doesn't ring every 15 minutes, but it was an adjustment for sure.
But it's a big change from being a trial judge or from being a private practice lawyer where you're in court and running into 20 or 30 attorneys every day and court personnel and other judges and just you have a lot of interaction with people, clients, people from the public. You don't get as much of that as an appellate judge. You're absolutely right. That's a huge transition. I know you do a lot of other things for the court system and for the courts, in addition to being a judge on the Eastern District Court of Appeals. Talk to me a little bit about some of the committee work that you do, some of the commissions that you work on, and some of the issues that you personally are working on with the Missouri judiciary.
One of the committees that I work on is the Civic Education Committee I think that you had a podcast with Joe Goff not too long ago on that issue.
I did.
I would encourage everybody to go and listen to that podcast, because civic education is a hugely important issue to a lot of our judges, just to get people to better know and understand the court system and the way that we make decisions. Because I think sometimes people think it's mysterious or there's some kind of political idea behind every decision that's been made. We're sitting there trying to figure out what the law is and making the right decision. And I think the Civic Education Committee is really important on helping to kind of get that message out. So the other committees I'm on I'm on the Missouri Courts Automation Committee, which is a committee that helps to oversee basically all of the judiciary's. Automation is a word that I always think is kind of funny because it seems to refer to computers in general. A big part of it is our case management system, which a lot of listeners may know as CaseNet. It's a little bit different on our side. We meet pretty regularly and work on the kind of the overall policies about what our automation policies are going to look like, what kind of systems we're going to be using. Within that committee, I serve on a number of subcommittees tailored to specific issues there. Then I also serve on the State Judicial Records Committee. We deal with the judicial records, what should be a record. We're doing a lot of work with forms and things that courts can use, that litigants can use to help streamline the process, to make it a little more easy and a little more straightforward, with the goal to have a unified system of doing most things throughout the state of Missouri. Missouri is really fortunate to have a really nice statewide electronic filing system that CaseNet is not available in a lot of states. They don't have something similar. They might have patchwork systems or they're getting something up and running, but Missouri has really been on the cutting edge with the e-filing and ensuring that people have access to that. My whole practice, I was in e-filing. We've been doing it here, and it's been relatively uniform, completely statewide. And now with public access of it, it just gives a really great opportunity for people in the state of Missouri to really can see what their courts are doing and what's being filed in the courts.
I give a big tip of the cap to the Supreme Court and OSCA and all the people who have put the resources and the brain power and the manpower behind developing the technology that we're using to power our courts and to make information more widely available to folks, because it really is amazing how far we have come in a very short period of time and the work that's been put into that. I know that you are deeply involved in a lot of these technological issues, a lot of nuts and bolts that probably isn't super exciting to the rank and file folks who might be listening to this. Is there something that you would like to see in the future that you're really excited about?
I think the easy answer is probably artificial intelligence, right? How is the court going to use that in a way that helps to increase productivity, to make things better for our staff without undermining public confidence in the judiciary? The judiciary is a field or a branch of government that is run entirely on the public's faith in it, as far as I'm concerned. And so there's a lot of these really great AI tools out there. To be able to utilize those in a way that is helpful, meaningful to the judges, the court staff here, also to the public. There is an AI work group on that. We've been having these conversations and hoping to find a good pathway to start incorporating that into the way that the judiciary does things.
Absolutely. And I think one of the focuses is not just how the courts might utilize this technology in the future, but how we're likely going to see AI implemented by people in our courts, by parties who are going to utilize AI to help develop legal arguments or process evidence, or maybe, let's hope, but whether we're going to have AI issues with evidence and the creation of evidence that maybe isn't legitimate. All these things, all these ways that this AI can affect our courts and affect our system, those are all things that the work group is looking at. I very much enjoy our discussions about it. I always feel simultaneously smarter and dumber whenever I leave those meetings. I don't know how that happens, but
it's one of those things where you finally figure it all out and then all of a sudden it's different. But it offers a lot of opportunity. And one other thing that we have talked about that I would really love to see implemented is to have a public-facing AI, I guess chatbot is the term for it, where the public could go and type in questions that would come back with answers about the judiciary. We have a lot of people who are filing things unrepresented, pro se litigants who don't have lawyers. If you had some function where they could ask general questions that they would otherwise call a court clerk for, you could help the public a lot. and also save time for our court clerks answering the questions so they can do some of the other things that they're having to do and struggling to get done on a day-to-day basis.
I think that would be a great use of it. I think any resource that we can make available that can help to answer their questions about how we do things or why things are done a certain way, that can only help people's understanding of our courts and can only help them appreciate it more. Now, Judge, I've enjoyed talking technology with you and all these things, but one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on today was because your court has a very important anniversary coming up. Tell the folks about that.
So the Eastern District Court of Appeals is celebrating its 150th anniversary this year. Our court was created by the Missouri Constitution of 1875. Before our court was created, the Supreme Court was handling all appeals from every court in the whole entire state. And the workload coming out of St. Louis was becoming overwhelming. And so wisely, I think, the people of the state of Missouri in 1875 decided to establish what was at the time the St. Louis Court of Appeals. And it took a lot of the workload from the St. Louis area and took that off the plate of the Supreme Court so the Supreme Court could focus on the other areas of the state. And of course, the court was overseen by the Supreme Court, so there was always the possibility that things would still go there. But that was the reason for its being, was just a growing state, you got a growing population, you need more judges to help figure things out. So we were created by the 1875 Constitution, started in 1876. I believe it was January 3rd, 1876, or whatever the first business day of 86 was. So we're excited about it. I think it's a fun thing to talk about.
That's excellent. And I think that people sometimes would forget, they hear that number, that the state of Missouri has been around for a long time and their justice system has been around for a really long time. 150 years is a really long time. You would think by this point we had answered all the questions already, but apparently we still haven't, because we still have a lot of work.
Yeah.
But tell the folks a little bit about some of the events and some of the things that you guys are planning to celebrate and to mark this milestone.
Sure. So we've already done an in-bank, which there are 14 members of our court. Typically, we will sit in 3 judge divisions. And so only 3 judges will hear your case. Every now and then, you'll have an en banc or in bank, depending on how you like to pronounce it, proceeding where all 14 of us will come and sit together. We don't do it particularly often because there are so many of us. And so in January, we just had a case that we heard in banc to mark this moment in history and start off our celebration. The big thing we'll have going is we're going to have a ceremony here at our courthouse to mark the occasion of 150 years here as the Court of Appeals. We're really looking forward to it. We have some good speakers coming. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Brent Powell, will be here. We'll have a representative from the governor's office. I think he's going to give us a video message. My son's elementary school choir is coming in to sing the national anthem. So that should be really fun.
Oh, that'll be a great time.
And then we'll have a keynote history address by Jim Dowd, who's one of our judges here. And he's got a lot of history with this court.
It sounds like it's going to be an incredible ceremony. Are there any other activities that you all are doing to mark this occasion of the 150th? Did I see that there's a coloring contest or something?
Yeah, so there are a couple other things I should mention. One is we did do a art contest. So we had sent out messaging to schools across the district seeking people's artwork, renditions of, I can't remember exactly what the prompt was, but what do the courts mean to you effectively? And we've gotten some really great submissions on that. We're going to be displaying the first place winning artwork at the ceremony. So we'll have a couple of pieces of art up, and then that was great. That art contest was another kind of nod towards civic education in a way. That let's get kids thinking about the courts and what they actually do mean to them. One other thing we are doing is we are going to sit at the old courthouse here in downtown, which people from the area or probably around the state are most familiar with as the Dred Scott Courthouse. That is the courthouse where this court originally sat. So the Eastern District of the Court of Appeals originally was in the old courthouse downtown, so we thought it'd be fun. They just did a huge renovation. It looks great in there. So we thought it'd be fun to go and have a couple of arguments in the old courthouse.
It is beautiful what they've done with the renovation, and those arguments, when they get set, those will also be open to the public as well. So if you wanted to come on down and see it, you could.
Absolutely.
Judge, I'm so excited about marking this anniversary. It is a really big anniversary for our judiciary, and I'm glad that you're making a big deal out of it. It's something that's worthy discussed and trumpeted. I guess the last question that I have for you today, I know you're busy and you've got other things that you need to do today, but I have to ask this question. You got me thinking about this now. So you're marking the 150th anniversary of the Eastern District Court of Appeals, originally the St. Louis Court of Appeals, with your activities. So let's say 150 years from now that we're looking back at the 300th anniversary of your court. And if today you were going to bury a time capsule under your courthouse that they're going to open in another 150 years, what would you put in that time capsule to let those folks know 150 years from now what you and your colleagues at the Eastern Districts were doing with court and what it meant to you?
That is a tricky question. You want to say I would put in a bunch of law books, but the reality is we do all of our stuff online at this point. We squeeze the internet into the time capsule. Is that a possibility?
Maybe it would be a smartphone or an iPad or something, maybe.
I think in a time capsule, to really get a sense of what the court is doing, an iPad would probably be appropriate. A lot of our judges do their work on iPads at this point. Black robes, just to make sure that they know that we were still wearing them in 2026, and hopefully they'll still be wearing them. I didn't do a very good job answering that question.
No, I thought you did a great job. It was a very odd question, and for whatever reason, I was just thinking about it. 150 years, a long time, but this system, you and I are both pieces in it. I'm enjoying being part of it now, but I know long after I'm done with this, it's going to keep rolling right along, and there's going to be new judges and new people making decisions, and hopefully in another 150 years, new judges celebrating everything that those that come before them have done.
We're marking this anniversary, but I think one of the things that I try to keep in mind, and one of the reasons I don't say we're celebrating, I think it's more of a recognition, because the idea is that our court is one thing. It's just been the court for 150 years. It's been made up of a number of different judges, but the individual judges shouldn't be seen as important as the court as an institution. So for us to mark the occasion is to say that we are marking the service that this court has done for the people of the state of Missouri. And it's less about celebrating ourselves. It's definitely more of an appreciative moment for what we've been able to do as a court, as opposed to what individual judges have done.
Absolutely. It is a recognition not only of the length of time that the work has been done and the judges who have done the work, but also all of the people behind the scenes, from the marshals to the clerks to the staff, to everyone who has made your court run as long as it has and contributed in whatever way they have to making that happen. Yeah. It's something to certainly note, and certainly I'm happy that you all are marking that with your celebrations this year.
That's a really good point, though. I said the court is a collection of judges, but the court is so much more than just the judges. They're the law clerks and the clerks and the marshals that run security all make up the court. And really, in a way, all the lawyers that have come before the court, made arguments, are part of the court as well. They serve as officers of the court. So we're recognizing really the history, what's happened, as opposed to celebrating any one individual.
Judge, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Best of luck with all of the activities that you have planned to mark this special occasion for your court. We'll let you go about your business the rest of the day, but thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I was happy to do it, and thanks for putting me on.
You are very welcome, sir. And that will conclude another episode of our podcast today. If you have been enjoying our podcast, don't forget to like and follow us on your podcast choice, be that Apple or Spotify or wherever else you might be listening to us today. If you'd like to see video versions of these podcasts, check us out on YouTube. And don't forget to follow and interact with the Supreme Court of Missouri and our Missouri courts, Instagram, Facebook pages, and all the other social media channels that we're operating at this time. With nothing else to discuss today, this podcast is adjourned. Thank you, folks. Have a great day.